right. As always, just give me a second to get this out on the internet. I guess I can pull up the screen now. So, there you go. Get yourself a good look at the results if you don't have them memorized already. And I will be there in a minute to talk. But we're going to talk about everything. I didn't get a chance to talk about the F1 race, so we're going to talk about the Mexican Grand Prix, some of the interesting things that happened in that race. And then we will talk about, obviously, NASCAR. Great race at Homestead yesterday, obviously. So that'll be a fun one to talk about. And then we will also talk about the other races, Xfinity, trucks, and we'll do our normal bubble breakdown, talk about the playoff cutoff, and yeah, so let's get this going here. I think I have everything posted and up. There we go. That is up. All right. Bam. There. It's my face. Apologies. What's up in between the lanes? Glad you could make it. I hope everyone's doing well. But I got an answer for you in between the lanes. And the answer is Martin Truex Jr. That was a very cool throwback that they did at the track. Of course, he ended up winning his championship at. They did a throwback paint scheme to Martin Truex Jr.'s 2017 championship with the 19 car. Looked very similar. It was, almost completely accurate because the sponsor was the same. So that was really cool to see. Joe Gibbs Racing get on board with it. Bass Pro Shops, obviously. So, yeah. Cloudy 341 Blade, you didn't read my tweet last night. I don't pick where I have money, so I guess he proved my picks wrong, but I got some money out of it, so thank you, Tyler Reddick, for the McDonald's quarter pounder. Just kidding. Don't go to McDonald's right now or whatever their issues are. Is it too soon for a McDonald's joke? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have made that joke. But let's see. In between the lanes, I'm trying to anticipate your questions here. Other paint schemes. I thought the 2-car looked really good with the what is that, Freightliner? It's usually the black and blue paint scheme. He won at Gateway with it, but with the pink, I thought that was a really neat paint scheme. I thought that those were the two that like really stood out to me. Obviously, the 19, I thought, but pretty standard paint schemes across the board outside of that. Do you think Denny Hamlin is in a must-win? He's mathematically not in a must-win, but I think he has to go for a win because other playoff drivers are going to be getting a lot of points. It would be, Micah, it would be more of a discussion if it was like a road course where you can split the strategy, but at the end of the day, he's going to be getting stage points anyways. So I understand the question. I understand what you're going for. And once again, I fully understand, and this is what I've been debating with myself. I think everyone's been kind of debating it. Where is Denny Hamlin right now? Like, is he in a must-win or is he in a points? Because he's in that very odd middle ground where 18 points can be made up. If Byron has a bad day, that's very achievable. But if Byron runs top 6 most of the day, that's where it turns into a tough position for Hamlin to point his way in. But on the flip side, this is a track that Denny Hamlin is more than capable of. He was the best non-Hendrick car in the spring. He was the 4th best, I would say. Byron was the best that day. I'd say Larson or Elliott, they were 2nd, 3rd. You could flip-flop those two. Excuse me. And then Hamlin. And at times, Hamlin was better than Larson and better than Elliott, but just the way it ended up, I think Hamlin ended up pitting late in that race, and he ended up finishing like 12th or something. But Hendrick ended up getting that 1, 2, 3. So what it comes down to is just how the early stages of the race go, which I know that's so obvious to say, but I think they should go into that race with the mentality that they have to win, because if they do, they run top three all day, then that could make up the points deficit alone. If Byron runs ninth, at like in both stages, he only gets 4 and Hamlin gets, 16 stage points, then all of a sudden, it's a 6-point gap. And if Byron keeps running ninth, you keep running top three, there's your 6 points. So, I'd go into it if I was Denny Hamlin. I would go into it with the must-win mentality. And it's not like if it was a Talladega, if it was the Roval, then, it would be over for Denny Hamlin. But it's Martinsville. It's a track he can go out and win. Like, he's probably one of the favorites in the odds. So, Denny Hamlin making the championship 4 is very realistic. But he's in that weird middle ground, points versus must-win. And I would say go into it thinking must-win. But if things fall your way, it's very realistic that you could point your way in. That was a long answer. But good question, Micah. Cloudy 341 Blade says, I wonder how Jim France is feeling. Jim France, here's the thing. I try my best these days not to root for someone, but I love a good awkward situation. And I double love a good awkward situation on television. And someone from NASCAR, whether it's Jim France, Steve Phelps, and Steve O'Donnell, whoever it is, having to hand Tyler Reddick or Denny Hamlin the championship trophy, that would make for some hilarious, awkward television considering the situation. Whether Hamlin wins it as a driver or an owner, it would be hilarious. If Reddick wins it, that would be hilarious because, of course, Hamlin is the owner, Michael Jordan. It would create a hilarious situation. So, in NASCAR, Jim France, the entity of NASCAR, they are not really allowed to root for or against people because that would be a conflict of interest. But internally that they've got to be like, oh, really? This is the year that they decide to show up and win a championship? Like, it couldn't have been next year when we have the situated or last year before we had our problem. So, that would be one heck of a headline. Let's see. Bubba was amazing. Bubba was great in the first half of the race. He was top 5, made some great moves on the restarts, led some laps. Obviously, these mile and a halves he does really well at. Kansas, Vegas, Homestead, Texas. He's got a pole there, led a bunch of laps last year. So these mile and a halves he's really good at. So it's no real shock to see him running up front. I didn't pay close attention to him the second half of the race because we had our own playoff thing going on. But I'm very curious to how he ended up 18th because he had top 5 speed like early in this race. So what happened? Did they have a bad pit stop? Did the car just, kind of not adapt to the rest of the race? Cloudy 341 Blade was talking about Bubba's paint scheme. Yeah, he had a really good paint scheme too. Now that you reminded me, I thought we were talking about like how he drove yesterday. Oops, I misinterpreted that. In between the lanes, had a Toyota win, but it wasn't the Toyota I predicted. I had Martin Truex Jr. Yeah, Reddick, Larson. Boy, if they don't make Homestead the championship after that, I swear, if I see an announcement that says Phoenix as the 2026 championship location, I don't know what I'll do, realistically. But I'll tweet mean stuff. I'll come on here and say mean stuff. It's nothing personal against Phoenix Raceway. It's just that Homestead's better for the racing. I don't know how else to put it. But Homestead has provided great racing, and even during the 550 package, it was kind of hit or miss. Like, I remember 2019 was really bad. 2020 was exciting because we had the whole Elliott Logano thing, like, kind of boiling over from Bristol. And then 2021, I think, like, Chris Buescher won a stage, and that was back when RFK was, like, a mid-pack team, so it was very random, But other than that, Homestead's been great. The old cars when they had high horsepower or whatever, and then obviously this next-gen car has been great at the mile and a halves, and Homestead included. And yesterday was one of the best races in the next-gen era, I would say. Great racing throughout the day, beginning to end. There was no dull moment in this race. We had intense fights for the stage wins between Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin. Someone in the comments reminded me, and I forgot about it completely. We had the great finish. We had the great battle between Blaney and Larson that resulted in Larson once again wrecking himself or spinning himself out. Early in the race, we had some great restarts. Bubba launching to the lead. Chase Elliott launching into second. That one restart. We saw a variety of leaders. We saw the playoff drivers rising to the occasion, running 1 through 7 for a good portion of this race. As I said, just seeing a variety of guys up front. Elliott, Byron, Reddick, Bell, Hamlin, Blaney, different teams, different manufacturers. And then Hocevar at one point was up there in the top. I mean, there was nothing to complain about from this race. I have no complaints. I'm so happy about yesterday's race. It was such a good race. If it went green to the end, if the only thing that could have prevented that from being a good race is if they had like 5 overtimes and it was a crash fest. But they didn't. They raced completely clean at the end of that thing. I mean, seriously, what is there to complain about from that race? I can't think of anything. Getting behind on comments, so I'll try to be quicker. I've been very long-winded with my answers today. Or my talking points. Some of my talking points, I guess we can call them. But yeah, that was the race of the year for me. I remember Kansas in the spring was really good. This one might just top that. Chase Elliott led some laps. Yeah, that's been Elliott's problem all year is that they've been like consistently top 10, and then every once in a while they'll get a top 5, but they'll peak at 4th or 5th. Like they'll get in the top 5, but it's like just barely. They don't quite have that winning speed. Like I could name almost every occasion they've had winning speed. Martinsville, Texas, Homestead, I think Michigan maybe, Pocono. That's it. Like that's 5 races they've had winning speed. So that's been my problem with them all year. They've been incredibly consistent. Top 20, top 15, top 10, not wrecking out. It's just that they just haven't quite reached that next level. But, I mean, Vegas, they didn't really have the time to show it because they were involved in an early wreck, but drove from 18th to 5th in that first stage before the Austin Dillon crash. Who's to say he wouldn't have led laps in that one? So things are looking up for that team right now. They finally made that step. It may be too little too late, but it's a good sign for 2025 at least, I guess. So they just got to keep going on that upward trajectory. Let's see. Cloudy341 Blade says, if Larson misses the championship 4, it's his fault for missing 2 stages of the Coke 600, wrecking out of Atlanta and having mid-races. And we've seen in the past you can only miss out by 1 point. Yeah, I mean, for sure. But you could do that with every playoff driver. You could go back to a point in the regular season. Like if Byron misses it, you could find a slump. He had a summer slump again. And you could find a few races where he just ran 12th and say, well, if he scored more stage points and improved his regular season standing by 1 position, there's your point. Or if he has winning speed once and he wins 1 race over the summer, there's your speed. You could point at Hamlin. You could say, well, if he wasn't on this long winless streak since April, if he wins that Nashville race, the 5 overtime race, there's how he advances. Like, you could really do that with all the drivers. But, yeah, I mean, for sure, you can look at a bunch of Larson things this year, whether it's wrecking himself or missing the Coke 600 or, whatever it may be. Marty says, great race yesterday. My favorite so far. I'm surprised the top 6 places were all playoff drivers. What happened to all the non-playoff drivers? I'm new to NASCAR. Does this scenario happen each year? That's the thing, Marty, is that in the past, so the next gen car started in 2022. And since then, like, it's a wide variety of who runs up front. Playoff drivers, no, non-playoff drivers. In 2022, the first 4 playoff races were won by non-playoff drivers, which was just a complete shock. Because there have been years where all 10 playoff races have been won by playoff drivers. So for 2022 to come out the gates and have 4 straight at 4, it was like Darlington, Texas, Kansas maybe, and I don't remember the other one. The schedule's changed so much, but we had 4. Bristol, I think Bristol was another one. To have 4 non-playoff drivers win was like unheard of, because in the old generation of car, it was always the 16 best teams. Maybe you'd have a fluke winner in there. You'd have a super speedway winner, but Elliott, Larson, Hamlin, Bell, Truex, Gibbs, Hendrick, Penske, like those guys were running 1 through 10 for the most part. Maybe you get a Chip Ganassi Racing winning a race. So for the most part, you'd have at least 80% of the playoff races won by playoff drivers if I had to guess the number. But now it's like borderline uncommon. You almost see non-playoff drivers win more than playoff drivers. I mean, this year alone, we've seen Stenhouse, a non-playoff driver, win. We saw Buescher, a non-playoff driver, win. Chastain, a non-playoff driver, win. But you obviously see Logano, you see Reddick, you see Larson. So you still see the playoff drivers win. But to see them, as you said, run 1 through 6, in this era, it's almost unheard of for them all to show up, for them all to have good speed, great speed, and to have winning speed. It was really kind of a surprise. If you ask me, just looking at how this next gen era has gone, it's really unheard of. Now that I kind of say it out loud, it's really weird. Michael Jordan about to win his first NASCAR championship before LeBron. Yeah, LeBron's technically a part of RFK through the Fenway Group. He has an ownership stake in that. Obviously, Michael Jordan a little bit more relevant in the NASCAR world because he shows up to races, and obviously he fully co-owns that team himself, not just like a group he's in. So not to discount LeBron in the Fenway Group, but just, you guys get what I'm saying. Are people picking Martin Truex Jr. to win every week because it's his last season? Probably. That's my guess. Denver asks, hey, will you be doing a live stream of the Adelaide 500 November 16th and 17th? The Drivers' Championship is down to the 2 888 drivers, Will Brown, Brock Feeney, with the championship on the line. That's a good question. I have been wanting to watch some supercars, and NASCAR will be over at that point. F1 doesn't have a race that weekend. I'll consider it. Thank you for reminding me at the end of the season because I would have forgot otherwise, but I'll figure out which, because if it's like supercars usually has like 2 races in one weekend. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So I might just do one. I could do both, but once we get closer to it, like after Phoenix, I'll make a decision on what we do because I do want to watch the supercars race. So, and to appeal to the Australian viewership and New Zealand viewership a better time because it's like what? 10 a.m. over there, 9 a.m., 7 a.m., something like that across the time zones. Australia has a bunch of time zones. So, better appeal them, I guess. Caution on lap 1 with Justin Haley. I swear, maybe it is the 7 car. Maybe it wasn't LaJoy because Haley wrecks himself on lap 1 and then he spins again later in the race. Maybe it's the 7 car that's cursed. It's not LaJoy. It's truly the 7 car. Larson fans are saying it's a bad race because he didn't win. I don't. That's the thing, is that the instant that poll goes up, which honestly I'm going to pull it up here because the numbers are incredible this week. And people's first reaction, and I think this is definitely true to an extent, that there are certain fans that when their driver does not win, they are upset, and their automatic response is that race was not good. And that was me when I was like 10, maybe. When Jeff Gordon didn't win, I was always disappointed. But I mean, look at this number. Once I get it up here, that's a pretty darn good percent. I got to look up what 5% of 25,000 is, or 6%. I'll do 6%. 6% of 25,000. I'm terrible at math. I got to use the phone. So math was like my worst class throughout high school, college. Like, you got to bear with me. And that's about 1,500 of the votes. So that's still a small number. I mean, 6% we all know. And you also have to account that there are some people who, for some reason, odd reasons, I genuinely don't know how. They didn't like it. Or they hate NASCAR and they think that their motorsport is better. Or they just hate NASCAR for some other weird reason. Or they accidentally clicked no. Someone probably accidentally clicked no. So you have to factor that in as well. So I don't think it's necessarily just Larson fans, but I mean, I get your point. There are fans out there. If Kyle Larson didn't win, oh, I'm a Ryan Blaney fan. He got passed on the last lap. That was a bad race. No. So, but I personally, if it was up to me, this would be I think it is. I think like the highest recorded number on this poll was like 96%. So this will be a top 5 race on his poll. But yeah. All right. This one. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes I click the wrong one and I get flustered. Not flustered, but I'll frustrate myself for no reason. -7 is not a lot, but I think Kyle Larson is in a lot of trouble, even if he makes up the 7-point gap. If Byron or any of the guys below. Yeah, and that's the problem. So, okay, we've seen 2 guys below the cutoff line win in the first 2 races. So the numbers would say the way things work out is that we're due for someone above the line or someone not below the line, so a non-playoff driver is due to win the race. If that's the situation, I would say it's a straight up between Byron and Larson. Hamlin would have to run top 2 all day, and Larson and Byron can't run top 2 all day. So at the end of the day, I think you'll see my Monday pick at some point. I think we get a normal, like, above the cut line or a non-playoff driver wins, and it comes down to the points. And it's not like Larson is astronomically better at Martinsville than Byron. If this was Homestead, if this was Vegas, I'd say I'd favor Larson. Honestly, I would. I'd say 7 points, Larson will make that up in a stage, or he'll make that up in the stages. Martinsville, I don't exactly feel that way. And it's not saying that Larson's bad at Martinsville. It's that Byron's really good at Martinsville. Byron's won twice here in the next gen era. Byron's the most recent winner. Byron has dominated multiple races. He's led a bunch of laps. Byron will probably run top 5 most of the day, if we're being realistic. And if he runs 5th out of the top 5, that means Larson has to run 1st or 2nd the entire day to outpoint Byron. They can't afford any hiccups. So 7 points is not a lot, but you're relying on a guy who's really good at this track you're relying on him to have a meh day, basically. While we're on the topic, let's go to this playoff bubble, do our bubble breakdown. Brought to you by no one, because we are not sponsored by anyone except for myself. I guess I'll cover up the brand, make you pay for it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't actually care. It's brought to you by water. Water, stay hydrated. Anyways, it's time for the bubble breakdown. Our bubble breakdown. Joey Logano, if he did not win that Vegas race, he would be -33. Can't say I'm shocked. Reddick and Logano are in. They have won their way in, so this is what matters right here. We'll do a couple comments, and then we'll do our bubble breakdown. I lied. Fun fact, only 2 drivers in NASCAR. I saw that, Cloudy341 Blade, on Twitter. Like, 2 times someone's flipped, and then they gone on to win the next week. David, welcome. Hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're having a good day. Is it bad when your driver wrecks? Because that's been a problem with these polls on Jeff Gluck every week. I mean, okay, here's the thing. It's a Twitter poll at the end of the day. We're going to have some outliers. Honestly, not just any poll that you do. If you go and do a survey on the street, 1,000 people. If you go to a racetrack itself and, you know, as people are leaving the gate, stop them and say, hey, was this a good race? And people are you're going to have a couple of weird answers, like outliers. So it's not just necessarily that poll. It's every poll is going to have it. I I do have we already read that. Get me today! Exclamation point text says bold prediction: Chandler Smith will replace Sammy Smith in the 8, and Sammy Smith moves to the Colleague 16 car. The Colleague 16 car has already been announced, so that's not happening. Chandler Smith's an odd situation because he's a pretty good driver. He's won in everything he's been in, but he's a free agent, and it's November, basically. It's really an odd situation. Joe Gibbs didn't have room for him, despite him maybe being in the championship 4. So, it's odd. The Adelaide 500 is two 250-kilometer races Saturday and Sunday afternoon, Adelaide time. So that's going to be like 4 a.m. But hey, if I got nothing going on, then 4 a.m. is like bright and early. Great. Let's go crazy. Let's party. I'll eat 4 a.m. breakfast while watching. We'll make it a good time. That's what we'll do. Okay, let's do our bubble breakdown. Officially doing the bubble breakdown. Christopher Bell, as long as they don't have a disaster, they're in. Like even if Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, if either of them go out and win, Bell's still got a 22-point gap on Byron. And Byron would have to outgain him in the stages. Even if Bell runs 15th every single lap on Sunday, Byron sweeps the stages, he still has to outgain him by 2 spots. So Bell's sitting in a pretty good spot, honestly. So it's not a lock. He could have problems. He could have things happen, and we know how this format works. Like, there's a genuine shot he could get eliminated. He should not sleep easy, but he's in a pretty darn good spot. William Byron's not in a good spot. If there's a new winner, if one of these guys wins, he's out. But once again, the benefit Byron has is that he has 7 points, and he's going to a track that he is fantastic at. He has 2 wins here. He's led a bunch of laps. It's a great track for Hendrick as a whole. Byron has a shot of straight up winning this race. But my one concern, my one and only concern is, do you remember the situation they were in last year? They were not quite in this intense of a situation. They had a bigger gap. It was somewhere in the 20s or the 30s. But they ended up only making it by 5 or 6. And it was extremely tense in that 24 pit box car, whatever you want to call it. They ran terrible. They ran like 15th the entire day. They very well could have gotten eliminated. I don't want to say that they were fully crumbling under the pressure, but there were leaks and there were some radio messages. They sounded panicked on the radio, is what I'm trying to say. They can't have that again. If they have that again where they run poor and they freak out and they panic, they're out. But at the same time, I doubt that situation would happen again. They would have to roll out the gates running terribly, qualify terribly. It's a track position race, and all of a sudden they're screwed. So I don't anticipate that happening again, but that is my one and only concern for that team. Other than that, I expect them to run top 5, and that is ultimately here on the bubble breakdown why we are concerned about all these guys. Larson can make up those points. He's got to straight up outrun Byron all day. He's got to outpoint him in the stages, and he's got to outrun him the rest of the race. Otherwise, it's going to take a win. Everyone else, I would say, is must win. Blaney and Elliott are must win. That's no question whatsoever. Hamlin, once again, is in that odd middle ground where if he can sweep the stages and Byron runs 8th in the stages and he outgains him by 14 points, then okay, 4 positions. That's the difference. But realistically, Byron's probably going to be top 5. Hamlin's going to be top 5, and that's only a couple of points, and you're really relying on double-digit positions being a difference. That's relying on Byron wrecking. So I don't like that position for Hamlin. I think it's once again, things can happen, but I'm going to say Hamlin has to win. That's just how I feel about it. You may feel different, but the numbers just say that it's this. This isn't Joey Logano on the cut line. That's no disrespect to Joey Logano, but how they've run this year, this is not Joey Logano who may run 14th on the cut line. This isn't Austin Cindric. This isn't Daniel Suarez. This is William Byron. That's the big problem. So that's how I feel about the Cup Series bubble. Back to the comments we go. I guess I can let you stare at the bubble some more. Hamlin wins his way in and Bell clinches his Get Me Today text. Monday prediction, Monday pick. If I'm Denny, I'm having Chandler in my third car. He brings a ton of sponsorship. He's in the Toyota pipeline, and he's really talented. I don't know what's happening with that 2311 third car. It's really confusing. I really don't know what's happening. It was Herbst, and then it wasn't, and then it is again, but the charter negotiate. It's very confusing. We all saw how Harvick blew 40-plus leads and 40-plus points in 2020. If I'm Bell, I'm treating this race like a must-win. Yeah, that should be the mentality. But at the same time, I mean, you don't want to go in like over-pressuring yourself, but you don't want to go in like and overlook it. You know, like when you go, like in college football, when you go and play a bottom-feeding team in your conference and you overlook them and you lose at home, like, you know, Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. They overlooked Vanderbilt straight up. Like, they came out of that Georgia game and they were all emotional after that huge win, and they just sleptwalked through the race or through the game, and they lost to Vanderbilt. Christopher Bell cannot overlook Vanderbilt, to put it, I guess, in one term. But at the same time, you can't go in there thinking, you know, do or die, like over pressure, we crumble under the pressure, and then we actually get eliminated. Like, there's a middle ground, I guess. All right, finally, it got brought up. Max Verstappen. Here's the thing. Max Verstappen's an aggressive racer, which makes it very entertaining, by the way. You can't deny that it's entertaining whether he's going over the top or whether he's within the limits. He's an entertaining driver. He's a very successful driver. He is a very talented driver. The first incident at Mexico, so turn 4, left-hander, hard left-hander. One of the few passing zones on that track for F1. I don't have a problem with that. He did it the week before at COTA. I think he was totally fine there. Racing, hard racing, pushing each other to the limit. No contact was made. Cool. Maybe a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. Nothing extreme. Completely fine in my opinion. Not worthy of a penalty, especially after what happened last week at COTA. The exact same situation. And there was no penalty. But now it's a 10-second penalty? Makes no sense to me. Second incident was out of line. That was an attempted wreck, it felt like. Very reminiscent of Brazil in 2021, turn 4, when Verstappen just straight up overdrove the corner, went into the paint, and ran Hamilton off. That was worthy of a 10-second penalty. Fully agree with that call. 20 seconds was overkill. The first incident, no problem. Second incident, big problem. Can't do that again. If he does it again at Brazil this week, you either got to sit down with him and say, if he does that again, we're taking points away from you, or you got to sit down and tell him, like, we'll give you a minute penalty next time. You've got to somehow tell him, look, we appreciate what you do. We appreciate that you are our defending champion. We appreciate what you've done for the sport, but there's a limit. You can race hard, race clean, maybe not necessarily dirty, but a little bit over the limit. Like, you know, if you push him just a little bit off track, you know, okay, that's getting close there. But when you completely miss the turn and you force your competitor, your championship rival, to just completely miss the turn with you, like there's no intent and everyone else is passing you, that's where you got to say, all right, if you do that again, like, we got to do something because we know that you have nothing to lose. If you both wreck out, great. 0 points gained on you for this big championship lead. But if only you wreck out, all of a sudden this is a championship battle. Like, there's a lot of things here. So Verstappen, once again, I appreciate his aggressiveness. I appreciate that he tries to race hard, but there is a limit. And that turn 8, I think it was turn 7, turn 8, that was not racing. That was completely missing the corner. I have a big problem with it. The first incident, once again, I thought was fine. But 10 seconds, I think was enough. 20 seconds, I think was overkill. If he does that again at Brazil, you got to sit him down. If you threaten to take points away from him, I think the message will be heard. Because time penalties in the race only do so much, I feel like. But once you start to threaten to take away points from him in a championship, a season-long championship, that's when messages are heard. But that's just my opinion. Hamlin is always in the most awkward points positions. Yeah. Well, what are you going to do, I guess? I'm unimpressed with how the 22 did. Logano is locked in. Okay, well, Micah, here's the thing. Number one, yesterday and Martinsville are irrelevant for the 22. Like, I hate to say it, but I genuinely think they don't care about those races. And number two, have you seen how they've run all year? That was probably Joey Logano's average race. Maybe he does a little bit better because he finished, like 18th? He might have done a little bit better in the regular season, but they have not impressed me this year. I know they're in the championship 4. I know they've won 3 races, but Joey Logano, he has not really impressed me this year. They're in the championship 4, which is, yes, in a sense, it's impressive. But as a whole, if you put the whole season together, sorry. Maybe I'm a hater. I don't know. I really don't know. Max is the F1 version of the 2023 Truck Series Carson and 2022 Chastain. But that's just the thing. That's just Max Verstappen. Like Ross Chastain, like Carson Hocevar. He's just aggressive. It's just kind of in his nature. And sometimes he oversteps the boundary and he gets in trouble for it. He gets a time penalty. So, and the thing is that I have really just never felt like it's been a championship battle between him and Norris. Now, the Constructors is a complete... Red Bull's out of the Constructors. Like, Perez is nowhere to be found, and Max is struggling to get on the podium, whereas Ferrari has double podium. Now, Ferrari's going to screw around and win a Constructors Championship because McLaren couldn't seal the deal when they had the best car for 3 months. But I've just never felt like this has been a driver's championship fight because seemingly Max has really never looked concerned or panicked. Whereas in 2021, that was concern and panic. I think their biggest lead was like 25, 30 points, and it got erased. Of course, Silverstone, Hungary, back-to-back, like that retightened up the championship battle. And by Mexico, after Mexico, I think he stretched it out to like 21 or 22, which is almost a race, but it's still like... And then, of course, Mercedes, all of a sudden, they came storming back at Brazil, storming back at Qatar. And that's when the panic set in. That's when you could see the panic. You saw it at Brazil, and then you saw it at Saudi Arabia when Max just went absurd, like crazy, missing turns, locking up, making over-the-top moves, the brake checking, and like just everything seemed to be borderline falling apart. He could feel the pressure. I've just never felt that with him this year. You can maybe argue Mexico was kind of similar where he felt the pressure and he felt that he had to do something about it, and he's the points leader, so if they both wreck out, advantage him. But the Drivers' Championship, I just have yet to feel like it's under threat, and I really don't think I'll feel like that unless Verstappen starts running 8th every week and Norris is winning like every week, or if Max DNFs. That's about the only way I'm going to feel that this is a championship fight. So that's just my opinion. I think RFK will turn it on next year with Buescher and Brad winning 5 races apiece and championship 4 appearances. I mean, we're looking ahead to 2025. I want to finish 2024 first, but RFK is an interesting, because we saw how good they did in 2023. They made that huge step up. Both cars in the playoffs. Buescher won 3 races. Buescher made it to the round of 8. But then this year they seemingly took a step back where Buescher missed the playoffs, but Brad won a race. And then Buescher won a race, while not in the playoffs. So both their cars won, which is big. And once again, they didn't take like a huge step back. It's not like they fell off completely. It's just that the circumstances at hand. So I would expect them to both be competing for playoff spots, probably for them both to win a race again, but it's an interesting, I guess, thought. I don't know. I'm still in 2024 mode. 20 seconds, I think, is reasonable. I mean, look at how he races drivers all season. It all started with Austria, Lando. Austria was a racing incident. I mean, if I remember correctly, Max pinched him, but it wasn't as egregious as turn 8 at Mexico. And I would say that was hard racing gone wrong. Turn 4 at Mexico was just hard racing. Turn 12 at Coda was just hard racing. And the reality of the situation is Max really does have nothing to lose. If Lando DNFs and Max finishes in the points, the championship's over. Like, once again, I still don't fully feel like it's a fight, but if Lando DNFs and Max scores points, like, it's done. No question. There's no chance for Lando. But if Max DNFs and Lando finishes in the points, and if Lando finishes in the points, he's more than likely getting a podium, it's a fight. So if Max is going to DNF, he has to make sure to take Lando with him in a sense. So, which don't do that on purpose, but you guys get my point. That's what he has to hope for. I don't intentionally skip comments. Sometimes they just flow in and I miss a comment or two, so I don't intentionally miss them. We need the officials from the 1997 where they DQ'd Schumacher. Yeah, I mean, if it comes down to that, obviously 1997 Schumacher, even 94, what Schumacher did, that was pretty obvious what he did. He intentionally wrecked Villeneuve in 97. To quote Martin Brundle, you hit the wrong part of him. So he intentionally wrecked him for sure, or he attempted to, but he missed, and so he got disqualified. So even if Villeneuve didn't finish that race, lost the championship, he would have ended up champion because Schumacher got disqualified. So 94, he more than likely should have been disqualified, but 1994 was a weird season in Formula One. From Senna's death, just like everything after that. I mean, Senna's death that's its own thing in F1 because one of their greatest drivers died in a racing accident. But when we look at the on-track stuff that happened in 94 after that, just everything just was weird that year. From the incident with Schumacher and Hill to the championship battle on the ebbs and flows to Benetton getting banned for a couple races or whatever it is, Schumacher getting disqualified for a race because of some technical things, to the cars having the massive changes of the cars because of the safety. I mean, 94 is its own situation, but 97, yeah. I mean, if it came down to, like, if Abu Dhabi, if Max has an 8-point lead and Lando qualifies second, Max qualifies sixth, and that's enough points to make up the 8-point gap to make Lando world champion. Well, let's say they run Max long. Lando's coming up to pass him on fresher tires, and Max Verstappen does what Schumacher did in 97. He intentionally wrecks Lando. I don't think that's going to be controversial. I think it's going to be a pretty straight-up, easy decision. They're going to disqualify Max, and Lando's the champion. I mean, it's controversial what he did, but, the result will not be controversial because they'll disqualify him. So I do not anticipate that happening again. I remember the week leading up to Abu Dhabi, it was a huge, everyone brought it up. Everyone said, Max has the tiebreaker. He's going to take out Lewis in turn one, and we're going to have this whole controversy. Max is going to be a champion because he took out himself and Hamilton so that there can be no real threat. And it escalated so much to the point that the FIA Formula One had to come out and say, if that happens, if the situation happens where Hamilton gets intentionally wrecked by Verstappen, he is kicked out of the championship battle. So, yeah. So, I mean, I feel like it's pretty straightforward. Martinsville should be, I think Martinsville is a kind of night. It's like a sunset start. Let's see. It's a 4 p.m. Eastern start, and we got daylight savings hitting, so I think it'll be a kind of a night race at the end of it at least. Connor Jones is right. Oh, yeah. Oh, we haven't even talked about this. We should have talked about this. Connor Jones intentionally wrecks Matt Mills, and then Matt Mills has to go to the hospital. He's on the entry list because at the end of the day, he is their driver. He's got a contract. He's got to be on the list. Theoretically, the team could suspend him. I don't think he's racing this week. Connor Jones, that was intentional. That was extremely intentional of a wreck at Homestead, a high speed, and it wasn't technically a right hook, but he intentionally wrecked a guy. He sent a guy to the hospital. He was in the hospital overnight. Yeah, Connor Jones, once again, kind of like the Verstappen thing with the theoretical situation. This is a real situation. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think when that penalty report comes out tomorrow, I think Connor Jones is getting a suspension. That was really bad. The end result was really bad. Like, suspension, in my opinion. This man knows a lot about the 97 Schumacher DQ more than NASCAR. Yeah. I did a lot more research on the F1 controversies. I think the thing is that I saw that they had a real championship format, and I saw how it went down, and I thought, oh yeah, I got to do some research on this. I want to look at all those YouTube videos, the documentaries, whatever, and learn about that. So, I mean, the early 2000s, NASCAR had a real championship format from, I guess, 2000 to 2003, and then it got wacky from 2004 onwards. But anyways, I love a good controversy, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in a real championship format. Will I do any off-season live streams? I plan on it. I couldn't tell you when they're going to be, if we're going to keep doing this like every Monday or if we're going to do something different, but I got to figure it out, and I don't think I'll fully be in that mentality till the season's over because, frankly, I mean, I'm just thinking what's going to happen at Martinsville. Who's going to make Phoenix? Who's going to win Phoenix? What's the championship week going to be like? What could happen in championship week? I mean, there's just so many factors that you got to give me a week and a half, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks to figure it out. Which Hendrick drivers won't make the championship race? Theoretically, none of them could make it. If Denny Hamlin wins, or Ryan Blaney, then but I think realistically, I'll make my Monday picks. We'll get to that pretty quickly here, actually. This year, 2024, NASCAR and F1 is crazy. Yeah, we've talked about NASCAR a lot, but F1 in itself has been crazy. We went from Max Verstappen breaking every freaking record last year, and this year, okay, here are the race winners this year. Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri. I think that's it. And then, like, 5 of those guys, Sainz, Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton, they've all won multiple. Piastri's won multiple races too. It's like, what? Like, this is just, it's exciting. It's fun. You don't know who's going to win every week, which is something different than what we've had the last couple of years. But it's kind of just like, it just escalated so quickly because Verstappen at that first quarter of the season, he was doing it again. winning all these races, and okay, a Ferrari's on the podium this week. Oh, it's a McLaren next week. Okay, at least the podium's different. But then just the summer hit, like June hit, and it was all of a sudden it was like, whoa, Ferrari's winning, McLaren's winning, Mercedes is winning. What? Where did this come from? Like, it just suddenly turned. So yeah, I mean, it's been wild in both of them. Oh, yes, Cloudy 341 Blade with great point. NASCAR racing at Saudi Arabia in 2030. I have no idea what the full details are on that, but yes, there is this racetrack being made. In fact, we got to show it. This racetrack is just absurdly crazy. I'm probably spelling this wrong. But this racetrack is supposed to have like a turn that's supposed to be like 4, 5, 10, 20, a bunch of stories. Look at this. Look at this. This turn is, look how high that is in the air. Once I undo the screen here. That is a turn on a racetrack. Right there. Yeah, I got a darn, what's it called here? That is a turn on a racetrack. That is a cliff, that a man-made, like, elevated cliff thingy. Those are people down there. Way, way down there. See, they look like ants, and that is the racetrack way above them. And there is in Saudi Arabia, this is in Saudi Arabia, and they had a little tour of the facility. It's currently still under construction. This track, it's supposed to be, it's going to be a huge thing. It's a racetrack. It's an entertainment center. They're going to have a bunch of like hotels and whatnot around it. Like, it's going to be this huge thing. And there was this board. In fact, I'll just go find the board. That said future racing leagues that will be at this place. And it was like Formula One, FIA, I think it was WEC or Rally. And one of the listed ones was NASCAR, which has a lot of people wondering, is it the Cup Series? Is it the, international series? Would it be Europe? Would it be, what NASCAR series would it be in a sense? So, and then it said 2030 at the end of it. So let me get this pulled up. So here it is. This is for the, apologies in advance for the terrible pronunciation. Qiddiya, I think, let's see, Qatar. I say Qatar. I might pronounce that wrong. So Qiddiya. I think that sounds right. Qiddiya. I'm going to go with Qiddiya. But you see here, Formula One, NASCAR, these series, F2, Formula E, them, and NASCAR's just sitting there, but we don't know which branch of NASCAR this is. So, I don't know. I really don't know. No, that's the one I wanted. Okay, let's make our Monday picks. We've got a little bit of time here left. Let's make our Monday picks. We got a triple header. Sorry, just Twitter's super confusing. The first thing that popped up is just really confusing. That's why I don't show you. No, but that's not what I want. So for you Shane Van Gisbergen fans, he is in the Cup race this weekend, as we will go into the entry list. Actually, let's do truck first. Let's go quick on truck and Xfinity. There we go. In fact, I never looked at the... All right, we don't have much time, so we're going to have to blow through this Xfinity and this truck bubble breakdown. Truck Series bubble breakdown, including our Monday picks for the eliminations. So, Infingers through... these four. That's your final four. I don't think any of these guys are winning. That's your final four. That's my Monday picks. Ty Majeski to win. There's my Monday picks. There's the truck entry list if you want to look at it. Make your picks. Make them quick. Let's see. I'll let you make your Monday picks as I go back to the comments here. 2025 NASCAR bingo card for each series. Oh, man, I'd go 0 for 20 on those, or however many bingo slots there are. 25. I think it's 25. I don't know. I don't know why I'm attempting to do math here. 2012 F1. Yeah, that was a wild year. Audi and Saudi and NASCAR in 2030. Don't know. We'll figure out soon. The track is so crazy. Oh, yeah, for sure. No idea. Cloudy 341 Blade. His picks this week are Heim, Chandler Smith, and Hamlin. Austin Dillon alluded to some big RCR announcement this offseason. No, I don't know what it's about. No idea if it has to do with Dale Jr. No idea what it has to do with, honestly. They got rid of Andy Petrie, who was like their competition director, but other than that, no idea. Cup Series, Logano, Reddick, Hamlin, and Bell for the Final Four. The Bears lost. Yeah, they lost in hilarious fashion. That guy was like taunting the fans, and then he let up a Hail Mary. Trucks race, Zilich, says John. Ooh, is Zilich in the field? Oh, he is in the field. Ooh, Norm Binning. Norm Binning. Okay, let's make a Monday pick for Norm Binning. Norm Binning will finish 23rd this week. There's a fun Monday pick for you. Good old Norm. Norm Binning is going to finish 23rd. Let's go to the Xfinity entry list. So I've got the current 4 that are in as the final 4, which is Enfinger, Heim, Eckes, Majeski, Xfinity. Here we go. Wendy's is on the number 97 this week for you Shane Van Gisbergen fans. Bubba Pollard is in the race. God, work. Okay, not. Okay, there we go. This entry list is frustrating sometimes. And I forgot to go to the points. I am discombobulated. Second straight week on Monday. At least I have my computer this time. Or my system. Final 4. I'm kind of boring. Because I'm just going to go with these 4. That's the second straight time I'm doing that. Hill and Allmendinger are in. Allgaier and Custer. Chandler Smith could maybe win. Mayer 2. Sammy Smith, no. Jesse Love, no. Smith or Mayer could win their way in, but I like these 4. As for the race, I'll go with Allgaier. It's my championship pick. I'll pick him to win Martinsville. So let's hear your picks. Johnny Sauter for the win, says Jamie. All right. Xfinity Final 4 from Get Me Today! Tech is Allmendinger, Austin Hill, Custer, and Allgaier. Same here. Could really go for Wendy's Bacon. William Byron and Corey Heim, says David. All right, let's get to the main event here. Let's get to the Cup Series entry list. And let's make our Cup Series Final 4 predictions. NASCAR Cup Series at Martinsville. Man, what a disappointment it's about to be. The race itself, coming off of that just absolute 10 out of 10 race at Homestead, I can't believe I'm talking about this Martinsville this way, but the fact of the matter is that racing has not been good at the short tracks in this next-gen era. They do have not an option tire, like they're going to only have one tire compound, but they will be running the softer tire. So maybe there's more tire wear. Maybe it makes the racing interesting. Maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know. Could that play a factor? For sure. Maybe. But we've had 2 guys below the cutoff line win the last 2 races to advance to the championship 4. So you would think logically, well, we've had too many winners below the cutoff line. We've had what was expected. Now this is where we get someone above the cutoff line or a non-playoff driver, and the points battle comes down to Larson and Byron. It's very possible. If we go back to our little bubble here, our NASCAR Cup Series bubble, here's a reminder. Okay, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the bubble. There's the bubble. Here's your bubble. I think Christopher Bell makes it at the end of the day. He's got too big of a points gap on Larson, and even if someone else wins, he's got plus 22. So I think Bell's in. So it comes down to these 5 guys: Byron, Larson, Hamlin, Blaney, Elliott. And this is my problem. Any of these 5 guys could win. I'm not kidding. Blaney's the defending winner. Elliott led 80-something laps in the spring. Hamlin led 80-something laps in the spring. Larson has won in the next gen era, and he finished second in the spring. Byron won in the spring. Like, once again, you would think that the way things have played out this year, or the way things should play out, if you logically think about it, you look at the cutoff line, you'd see 2 guys below it win the first 2. Okay, we're due for someone above to win, or for someone already advanced to win, or a non-playoff driver. But I don't know. Here's what happened in the spring. This guy in the spring, we've talked about him all season long. He's been extremely consistent, but just has not quite had that race-winning speed. He had winning speed at this track in the spring. And the last time he had race-winning speed one week and finished top 5, the next week he had winning speed again and he won. Martinsville to Texas. I'm going to go with 3 straight below the cutoff line winners. I'm going to pick Chase Elliott. Elliott's really good at Martinsville. They know they have to win. Points do not mean anything to them. They have won in this situation before. I don't know. It's probably going to be wrong. It's going to go horribly wrong. And if that is truly the result of this race, that would mean that the final 4 would be Tyler Reddick, it would be Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, and Chase Elliott. So that's my final 4. That means Larson's eliminated. That means Byron's eliminated. That means Hamlin's eliminated. And that means Blaney's eliminated. No back-to-back championships. But once again, any of these guys on the bubble or in must-win, I could see winning. And that's not an exaggeration. Like, the numbers back it up, as I kind of stated. But I'm going to pick the guy at the bottom. I'm going to pick Elliott. I just think this track's really good for him. So, yeah, my Monday picks, I don't feel confident about them. I never really feel confident about them if I'm being honest. But I'm going to go Chase Elliott to win the Cup race. I'm going to go the final 4 with being Reddick, Logano, Bell. Go all the way down here. Elliott. And the Xfinity Series, I'm going Allgaier to win. I'm going the same 4 that are currently in with Allgaier, Hill, Allmendinger, Custer. Truck Series, I'm going Majeski to win. I'm going Majeski, Heim, Eckes, Enfinger, final 4. So, yes. Problem with Larson, he's going up against guys who are better at the short track. Yeah, and that's something that concerns me for Larson for sure. And I don't, it's tough to pick points, so I'm just going to pick one of them to win. That's what I did, I guess. Martin Truex Jr. says in between the lanes. Byron or Hamlin for 4th. Says Jamie for the 4th championship spot. Steven says, Collick has not done the right thing by SVG. Gave him a crap car, rubbish race strategy, and a car. Well, okay, so the situation right now for SVG, he's not in the playoffs. His teammate is. At Collick Racing right now, all the priority is on the 16 because that is their championship contender. That is their championship guy. All of their chips are pushed in on Allmendinger. Now, if SVG goes out and wins a race, great. They're still going to celebrate. They're still going to get the trophy, pop the champagne, have a party. But the reality of the situation is he's not in the playoffs. Allmendinger is. This happened ever since this playoff format has been invented. That's always been the situation. Now, once again, we see non-playoff drivers win. We see a driver who's not in the playoffs, but his teammates in, we see them win, and it just goes down like that sometimes. But the reality of the situation is that the majority of the focus is on the car that's in the playoffs, the car that's going to the championship race. So, and SVG hasn't really done bad since he's gotten eliminated. He's still run well. The Vegas thing, once again, is really weird. It's odd that happened at the same track twice. And Homestead, he did about what he does at a first-time track. He runs 15th to 20th. So, yeah, I don't think he really got that bad of a car. I mean, it's just how Colleague's been this year. But, oh well. That's just my opinion on it. Cloudy 341 Blade is going with his GOAT, Kyle Larson, to win, because he thinks Kyle Larson is the best driver in the world, and he thinks that Kyle Larson is going to own Denny Hamlin as always. Wow, that's oddly specific from Cloudy 341 Blade. Big Kyle Larson fan, apparently. Justin Alligator. Says David. Denver says Hamlin to win the Cup race, Jesse Love to win the Xfinity race. Man, could you imagine a rookie Jesse Love wins his Xfinity title in his series debut or in his rookie year? That'd be crazy. Will Joey be the only Cup Series champion in the championship Final Four? That's a possibility. If the Final Four stays as is, or if Hamlin makes it, it's possible. But if Elliott or Larson or Blaney makes it, then no. But it's technically possible. All right. Well, that wraps it up for me. Thank you guys for showing up. Thanks for tuning in. Monday after, we got 2 more. Martinsville and Phoenix, and then the off season. We'll figure out what we're going to do in the off season. Once again, remind me in a couple weeks. But it was a fun weekend of racing at Homestead. Really good Cup race. I love that Cup race. Xfinity race was all right. Got to admit, I forgot about the truck race, so I missed a good chunk of it. But we got Martinsville this weekend. 3 elimination races. That's bound to go crazy. My Monday picks are Majeski, Allgaier, Elliott. And Final Fours are Majeski, Heim, Eckes, Enfinger for trucks. Xfinity is Allgaier, Custer, Hill, Allmendinger. Cup is Elliott, Bell, Reddick, Logano. And I know I got at least 50% right on that one, so I might be a genius. I'm just kidding. They're already locked in. It's pretty obvious. But thanks for watching this again. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Once again, Denver, Jamie, David, Give Me Today, Tech, Cloudy 341 Blade, In Between the Lanes, everyone that shows up to these things, I truly appreciate you all. Always enjoy the interactions, and we will figure out, I guess, what we'll do in the future. But for now, we gotta figure out our championships in NASCAR.